Alright, multiplying monomials. This is a new section we're going to be working on. One of the first things that we're going to talk about is what a monomial is. A monomial could be just one variable by itself. So in the first box of your chart, make sure that you write this down. So you could have the letter D, X, it could be the letter A, whatever that might be. It's just one variable. You could have one number by itself, just called a constant. So in your second box of your chart, just put one number by itself, like 10. Third part, a number, even a fraction, multiplied by a variable or more than one variable. So you could have examples like 3y, negative 2b, you could have 5m over 2, or even negative k to the third power. And last but not least, that no variables are allowed in the denominator. That is not a monomial. Alright, some more examples of what a monomial is. So yes, it's a monomial if it's a number, like 0, 8. If you have a fraction, like negative 3/4, that's another type of monomial. You could have a bunch of letters next to each other. So you could have t squared v to the third power. Or a fraction with variables. So you could have negative 1/4, and it could be mn, something like that. Examples of not a monomial is 7 over 2z. You can't have a variable in the denominator. Or adding or subtracting, like 2x plus 2y is not an example. So now that you've gone through and filled out that first page of notes, we're going to go through a few examples together. So you have on the other side just what a monomial is, just a breakdown of the definition, as well as some examples of a monomial and not a monomial. Be sure that at this point that you've filled out that front side of that worksheet, taken some notes for yourself so you'll have a reference to go by. Now we're going to apply some skills to different problems. So if you have a coefficient, such as the number 2 or 4, and you need to raise that to that power, we're going to kind of go over what you would do and apply to a constant, a number, and then also to an exponent. So the first example, they're giving you this 5x squared. That just means that we're writing 5x twice. My 2x to the fourth, I'm just going to write right after it. Now what you need to do is you can rearrange your numbers and letters. So you can take those two 5's and the 2 and write those first, and then rearrange all of your x's. You've got your 5 times 2, and then x times x times x to the fourth. So what you're going to do now is just simplify this. So you're going to take those numbers and multiply them. So you've got 5 times 5 is 25, times 2 is 50. And then you look at the number of x's. Always remember, an x with no exponent is just x to the first power. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count up the number of x's I have. I have 1, 2, and then 4 makes 6. So my final answer is going to be 50 x to the 6th power. So now would be a good time to pause the video and try the next one on your own before I go through it. So now that you've had a chance to try this problem, we're going to look at this one. The 3a to the 4th b times c cubed, all to the power 2, means that I'm writing this particular example twice. So I'm going to write 3a to the 4th b c cubed, and then I'm going to write it again. Now that I've gotten written twice, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to take my 3's and I'm going to multiply them. 3 times 3 gives me 9. Next, I'm going to look at my values of a. I have 2 of them, which is a to the 4th and a to the 4th. So all together, I have a to the 8th. Next, my b's, I've got 2, so it'll be b squared. And then my c's, I've got c to the 6th power. Another way of looking at this problem is really just taking that 2 and distributing it to each of your terms. So you could take 3 and square that. You can take a to the 4th and you just do 4 times 2, which gives you 8. You have your b to the 1st power, so 1 times 2. And then c to the 3rd is just 3 times 2. So looking at these rules, alright, we're going to go through and just look at an example. You've got this 2a squared times b, all the 3rd power, then times that 5ab to the 7th. So like we've done in the past, we've just expanded that particular problem. So you have what's in parentheses written out 3 times, and then you have what's left at the end. Your next step is rearranging. So there's no special glue. There's nothing holding everything next to each other because we're just multiplying everything. So I'm going to take what we have and just kind of split it apart and then reorganize it. So I have all the 2's together and the 5. I have a's, b's, and so forth. So then you can always expand out writing a squared, b squared, and so forth. And then that way it's an easier way for you to see how many a's you have. Because a to the 2nd power, this here, a to the 2nd is just a times a. So we have to keep that in mind as we're going through and solving this problem. And then our last bit is really just taking the numbers, multiplying it, counting up how many a's, how many b's, and then we have our answer. You can always pause the video right now and try the next 2 practice problems that are on your sheet yourself, and then you can restart this video once you've had a chance to solve those. So now we're going to go through, and I'm just going to expand upon this problem that's here. So if I've got 5x squared, I'm writing that out twice, just like we've done in the past. And then you've got 2x to the 4th that we're adding at the end. If I expand upon this problem like we did in the other example, I'm going to write 5 times 2 in front, x times x, and then I'm going to write x to the 4th, just 4 different x's. So then we look and we say, alright, we've got 5 times 5, 25, times 2 is 50, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's, so x to the 6th. Moving on to the next problem, we're really just taking what we have in parentheses and writing that twice. We're going to take all of your letters and numbers and reorganize them. So you're going to have your 3 times 3, your a to the 4th, your b's, your 2c cubes, and then we're going to keep going. I'm not going to expand on this one, so I'm not going to write a 4 times and b 4 times. I'm just going to say that we know that there's 4 a's here and another 4 there, so in the end you're going to have 8 a's. The 3 times 3 to begin our new expression will be 9, and you've got b squared because there's 2 b's, and then c cubed and c cubed is c to the 6th. This concludes our notes. We'll look at a few more practice problems when we come to class, and please bring any questions that you might have.